I was sitting on the couch that Saturday morning, coffee in hand, watching Sarah move around the kitchen making breakfast. 3 years of marriage, and I still felt grateful every single day. But there was always this one thing that kept me from feeling completely at peace. My mother-in-law, Patricia, had never truly accepted me. I could feel her cold stares at family gatherings, the way she would scrutinize everything I did. I thought it was just typical mother-in-law disapproval, something we could work through over time. I had no idea that for the past 4 months I had been living under surveillance. Before I tell you what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you are enjoying the story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you would not want to miss how this twisted situation unfolded. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Let me give you some context about my relationship with Patricia. I first met her 3 years ago when Sarah and I had been dating for about 6 months. Patricia was a 55-year-old woman who had worked in finance for most of her career. She had this controlling personality that was obvious from day one. The moment we met, I could tell she was not impressed with me. I worked at a small tech startup, and my income was not as stable as Patricia wanted for her daughter. She would constantly compare me to other men she thought were more suitable. You know the type. Guys with corporate jobs, 6-figure salaries, the whole package. Sarah always defended me. She would tell me that her mom just needed time to warm up to me, so I tried everything. I brought gifts for every holiday. I helped Patricia fix her computer when it crashed. I was always polite, always respectful. But Patricia kept that cold distance between us. There was this invisible wall that I could never break through, no matter how hard I tried. Things started getting weird around October of last year. I began noticing strange things that I could not quite explain. The first sign was subtle. One evening I came home from work and saw a black sedan parked about 3 houses down from ours. There was someone sitting inside, but I could not see their face clearly. I figured it was probably a new neighbor or someone waiting to pick up their kid. When I looked back a few minutes later, the car was gone. I did not think much of it at the time. About a week later, something else happened. I went grocery shopping one evening after work around 7 o'clock. As I walked through the aisles, I had this uncomfortable feeling that someone was watching me. You know that sensation when the hair on the back of your neck stands up? I turned around a couple times and caught glimpses of a young woman, probably in her mid-20s, who seemed to be following the same path through the store. Every time I looked directly at her, she would quickly look down at her phone, pretending to check something. It was odd, but I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Then Sarah started asking me these strange questions. Out of nowhere, she would say things like, "Why did you come home late last Tuesday?" or "Who were you texting at dinner last week?" I was completely confused because I had not done anything wrong. I had been coming straight home from work just like always. When I asked Sarah why she was suddenly questioning me about these things, she hesitated before answering. Finally, she admitted that her mom had been putting ideas in her head. Patricia had told Sarah that men who work at startups often have affairs because of work stress and long hours. I felt insulted, honestly. Here I was working hard to build a stable future for us, and Patricia was planting seeds of doubt in my wife's mind. I sat Sarah down and explained everything to her. Where I had been, what I had been doing, all of it. Sarah said she believed me, but I could see a tiny flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. That hurt more than anything, Patricia had said. In November, I decided to test my suspicions. I had a dentist appointment one afternoon, so I left the office early around 2:30. As I drove toward the dental clinic, I noticed that black sedan again in my rearview mirror. It was staying a few cars behind me, but it was definitely following my route. I changed lanes multiple times, took a few unexpected turns, and the sedan mirrored every move. This was not a coincidence anymore. I pulled into a gas station, and sure enough, the black sedan pulled in too, parking at the far end of the lot. I went inside the convenience store, bought a bottle of water, and then walked back out. Instead of going straight to my car, I walked directly toward the sedan. I wanted to see who was inside. The driver was a young woman wearing sunglasses with her brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. The moment she saw me approaching, she looked panicked. She quickly started the engine and drove out of the gas station before I could get close enough to knock on the window. I managed to take a photo of the license plate with my phone. That night I tried searching the plate number online, but nothing came up. I thought about telling Sarah right away, but I did not want to stress her out without having more concrete information. Instead, I decided to stay alert and see if it happened again. I started paying closer attention to my surroundings, checking my mirrors more often, varying my routes home from work. The feeling of being watched never went away. It was like living with a constant weight on my chest. Who was this woman? Why was she following me? And most importantly, who had hired her to do this? Little did I know the answer was much closer to home than I thought. December rolled around and Patricia invited Sarah and me to her house for an early Christmas celebration. We showed up on a Saturday afternoon with gifts and a bottle of wine. When we walked into Patricia's living room, I froze. Sitting on the couch, chatting casually with Patricia was the woman who had been following me. The same brown hair, the same facial features. I recognized her immediately, even without the sunglasses. Patricia smiled and made introductions. Joey, Sarah, this is Amanda. She is the daughter of my best friend, Linda. Amanda just moved back to town after finishing her degree in criminal justice. My heart started pounding. Criminal justice. Following me. This could not be a coincidence. I forced myself to stay calm and shook Amanda's hand. She smiled politely, but I caught something in her eyes. A flicker of recognition, maybe guilt. Throughout dinner, I felt like I was being interrogated. Patricia kept steering the conversation toward my work, asking about late nights at the office, about my colleagues, about business trips I had supposedly taken. I had not taken any business trips, so I corrected her, but she just smiled and moved on to the next question. Amanda sat quietly most of the time, occasionally chiming in with observations about how stressful startup culture could be. Sarah seemed oblivious to the tension. She was happily chatting with Amanda about life in different cities, completely unaware of what had been happening. When we got home that night, I knew I had to tell Sarah everything. I sat her down on the couch and explained the whole situation. The black sedan that had been following me for weeks, the incident at the gas station, and the fact that the woman following me was Amanda, the same person we had just had dinner with. Sarah looked at me like I was crazy at first. "Amanda," she said. "Are you sure? Maybe it was just a coincidence." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of the license plate I had taken. I explained how Amanda had driven away the moment I approached her car. Sarah's face went pale. She promised she would talk to her mom about it. I felt a small sense of relief. At least now Sarah knew something was wrong. 2 days later, Sarah came back to me looking worried. She had spoken with Patricia, and her mom had completely denied everything. Patricia claimed that Amanda was not following me, that Amanda lived in that neighborhood, and that I had probably just seen her around by pure chance. When Sarah pressed her for more details, Patricia got defensive and accused Sarah of not trusting her own mother. I was frustrated beyond words. "Sarah," I said, "I know what I saw. This was not a coincidence. This was deliberate." But Sarah was caught in the middle. She wanted to believe me, but she also did not want to think that her own mother was capable of something like this. We had our first real argument that night. It was not a screaming match or anything dramatic, but there was tension between us that had never been there before. Sarah finally said, "Joey, I trust you. But I also cannot accuse my mom and Amanda without proof." That word proof stuck with me. If they wanted proof, I would get it. In early January, I installed a small wireless security camera on our front porch. It was one of those discrete models that connected directly to my phone and sent notifications whenever it detected motion. For 2 weeks, I checked the footage every night. Nothing unusual happened. Just neighbors walking their dogs, delivery people dropping off packages, the usual stuff. Then one Saturday night in late January, Sarah and I went out to dinner with some friends. We left the house around 6:30 and planned to be back by 10. Around 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a notification from the security camera. Motion detected at front porch. I opened the app, expecting to see a stray cat or maybe a delivery, but what I saw made my blood run cold. Patricia and Amanda were standing on our front porch. They were not knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell. They were just standing there looking around, whispering to each other. Amanda took out her phone and started taking pictures of our front door, our windows, and our yard. They stayed there for about 3 minutes before walking back to Amanda's car and driving away. I immediately showed the video to Sarah. We were still at the restaurant sitting across from our friends, but I could not wait. Sarah's face went completely white as she watched the footage. "Why would they do that?" she whispered. I did not have an answer. We excused ourselves from dinner and drove straight home. By the time we got there, Patricia and Amanda were long gone. Sarah and I sat in our living room for over an hour, trying to make sense of what we had just seen. Sarah was visibly shaken. Her own mother had come to our house uninvited in the middle of the night and was taking pictures like she was conducting some kind of investigation. Sarah finally looked at me and said, "We need to find out what they are really trying to do." I agreed completely. The next morning, Sarah called Patricia and told her to come over. She said it was urgent and that we needed to talk face to face. Patricia arrived about an hour later, and she brought Amanda with her. Both of them walked in looking calm, almost too calm, like they had rehearsed this moment. Sarah did not waste any time. "Mom," she said, her voice steady but firm, "why were you and Amanda at our house last night when we were not home?" Patricia tried to deny it at first, saying we must have been mistaken. But when I pulled out my phone and showed them the security footage, there was no way to lie anymore. The evidence was right there on the screen, clear as day. Patricia's face changed. The calm mask slipped, and I saw something else underneath. Desperation, maybe, or anger. "Fine," Patricia said, crossing her arms. "We were watching you, Joey, because I know you are hiding something." I felt my jaw tighten. "Hiding what?" I asked. "I have done nothing wrong." Amanda spoke up for the first time since they arrived. "We have been following you for 4 months, Joey. We have documented your movements, your late nights at work, your lunches with female colleagues, everything." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. "You have been stalking me for 4 months. Do you realize how insane that sounds?" Patricia leaned forward. "I hired Amanda because she has the skills, Joey. I needed proof that you are cheating on my daughter before I told Sarah to leave you." Sarah stood up, her hands shaking. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking, "how could you do this to us?" Patricia looked at Sarah with this mix of stubbornness and misguided love. "I am protecting you, Sarah. I know men like Joey. They seem good at first, but they always disappoint. You deserve better than someone who works at some unstable startup with no real future." I felt anger rising in my chest, but I kept it under control. This was the moment I had been preparing for. Little did I know the answer was much closer to home than I thought. I had anticipated this confrontation. Over the past 2 months since I first realized I was being followed, I had been gathering my own evidence. I stood up, walked to the bookshelf, and grabbed my laptop.